2 weeks ago, we did a video about mukbangs and we talked about how some Korean superstars are eating obscene amounts of food on camera and not gaining an ounce of weight off of it.
This led to a lot of discussion in the comments that had nothing to do with the actual mukbang, but had to do with eating and eating disorders in Korea. We also got a question from Shivi who asked,
how are eating disorders treated in Korea? How are they perceived in Korea? And if somebody has an eating disorder, is there any way to get them any help?
This is quite the topic.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Now, one thing I want to say at the beginning is that some of the comments I also saw from people said things like, oh, Asian girls are so skinny, I can't tell if they're anorexic or if they're just Asian. And that really actually makes me feel really upset because my sister is pretty much half my size. That's our joke
Just
phrase
about.
for her. She's older than me, but she's like a size 0 to 1, and she's been very, very petite her whole life. No eating disorder whatsoever. She's just small. Everyone was like, you're anorexic, what's wrong with you? You should eat more. She eats just fine, but this really caused a lot of problems for her. And even now when she's older, if you say to her, like, are you gonna finish your food? Like, oh, you should eat more, you're so skinny. It makes her really, really upset because she is totally healthy. She's simply petite.
There's a big difference between being petite and having an eating disorder, and you shouldn't put those two in the same category. So let's start off with some basic stats. As of 2012, 130,000 people in Korea were diagnosed with eating disorders.
The two main eating disorders in Korea are bulimia and anorexia, but the actual study did not differentiate between the two, so we don't know if one is higher than the other.
About 80% of them were female while the rest were male, and Korean women in their 20s are 9 times more likely to be diagnosed with an eating disorder than men.
In 2010, there was a study conducted in which women were supposed to guess what they thought that they weighed, and very interestingly, 64.1% of them were incorrect about their own weights. They actually overestimated what it was they thought they weighed, and in reality, they were either the correct weight or underweight.
This doesn't just affect adults, this also affects younger students. In 2010, another study was conducted in which 2,226 students from grades 4 to 7 were surveyed, and it found that 7% of them had disturbing eating habits and behaviors.
Now, that last study is a little bit confusing to me because if you think about middle school, high school students in general around the world, it's not like we had the greatest eating habits.
Right, it's like if I had a choice, I'd eat Skittles all day.
How much soda did you drink when you were
When I
growing up?
was in high school, no joke, I drank 8 cans of soda a day. I don't know how I didn't explode, but here I am today. I've survived it.
North American school lunches, even what they serve in the cafeteria, is unbelievably unhealthy compared to what we've seen in Korean schools here. We're not saying every single Korean school meal in Korea is delicious, but it is certainly quite healthy.
Lots of vegetables, rice and soup. There's no pizzas, no hot dogs, no hamburgers,
French
no
fries,
desserts, no junk
muffins.
food. It's all healthy Korean food.
Yeah, so I feel like that survey doesn't really distinguish the difference between having a good eating habit and between having an eating disorder.
Also, another thing that we're confused about is what the perception of healthy is in Korea, because there's not one universal understanding of it. I remember when we were both teachers, when we had lunch with our co-workers, and a lot of them would be surprised that we wouldn't eat a lot of rice, and they would say that it's unhealthy for us to not eat rice. Rice is very healthy and important, while for us, if we eat rice, it goes directly to our asses. So our bodies metabolize it different than Korean people do. So I'm sure that the Korean perception of health is very different than our perception of health.
Now, when they talk about the fact that people did have disturbing attitudes and that a lot of people in their 20s had eating disorders, I kind of understand that from my experiences with my high school students because a lot of them looked up to K-pop idols. I think because of the images we see in the media, like all around the world, I think it makes us want to look a certain way. And then that causes us to do a lot of things like dieting.
In fact, according to a 2010 study by the Korean Ministry of Health, 1 out of 5 women and 1 out of 10 men are undernourished due to dieting. Terrible.
That is terrible.
They're not healthy diets, they're more like starvation, deprivation diets that they're going through.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of crazy diet trends, which we've talked about in other TLDRs as well.
Yes.
And I've also seen like people that I know, like when I was still teaching, people would come in with just like a sweet potato and they'd eat that. And then I'm like, that's a really good idea for a snack. And they're like, it's my meal for the day. And I'm
It's
like,
not a snack, this is it. This is the day's food.
and the problem is it's not a healthy form of dieting.
No.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going on a diet. We've been on diets
Right.
before. Exercising is really important, but there should be a way that I think people are explaining to somebody the science behind how to lose weight without being unhealthy.
Now, one of the problems that we found is that according to one study, one of the perceptions is that the skinnier you are, the wealthier you are. They can't quite figure out why that perception exists, but the guess is that people are assuming that if you are skinny, then you can afford a personal trainer and to go to the gym. So skinniness is a sign of wealth.
So it's interesting how different societies have different attitudes because I'm pretty sure like in Hawaii,
Yeah.
the rounder and the fuller you look is a sign of wealth. Or like how tanning in North America
Is a perception of wealth because it means you could travel, while in
yeah.
Korea, tanning is avoided because it's more of a sign of like manual labor.
yeah, like you're a farmer and you're out in the sun. So all these different kind of perceptions. One thing I have noticed about dieting in Korea is that there seems to be different perception on how you discuss it with people. So for example, in North America, my coworkers would never say to me, hey, you should lose weight.
Yeah.
Or like that would get you like a punch in the face or
Right.
like a chop to the throat.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just approach somebody with that.
It's a very sensitive topic. While
Yeah.
here in Korea, we've heard outright like coworkers saying, "Oh, you should lose some weight," kind of like, "Oh, you should cut your hair."
or like,
kinda,
hey, it's raining outside.
yeah, it's very matter of fact.
Yeah, and so that concerns me. While like in North America, I think there's a big shift in the attitude of telling people what to eat or people watching their weight too often. Like we're trying to make a change towards
I
that
could also
obsession.
say there's like a lot more acceptance of different body types in North America than I do see here in Korean media.
Yeah, I think because we have different body types available.
Yes.
I think there are different body types in Korea, but there's not such a broad like diversity,
Right.
height, this, that, boobs, butt, waist.
Good news is that there is some treatment of eating disorders in Korea.
There are also a lot of internet cafes online that have both sides. So if you want to support somebody who's recovering from eating disorder, they have that community there. But then just like in North America, they have the opposite, which is like the pro-Anna cafes where
Right.
they're helping each other to lose more and more weight in
Yeah.
an unhealthy manner. They'll even like post pictures of themselves and people will say like, here's where you should lose weight.
Yeah.
So that's also not good. But I know that that exists in both parts of the world.
It's not just in Korea. Also, if you're looking for a counselor, every city has a mental health center that provides counseling for little to no cost. But if you are uncomfortable actually going to the center yourself, then you could do so anonymously via online forums.
And these are the forums that are actually for the mental health centers. It's
Yes.
not just like the anonymous internet forums. So I think that's really great because it can be really hard to keep your anonymity in Korea since you have to always like put all your information in.
Especially
so.
because there's still a stigma when it comes to mental health in Korea. To be
Yeah.
able to do so anonymously online is a great benefit for people that need it. So that's it for now. If you want to know more information about the crazy Korean diets, we actually did a video about that a while ago, so you could click on that and see the kinds of things that people do for diets here in Korea.
So we're interested to hear about what eating disorders are treated like in your country. Is it something that's acknowledged? Do people actually know that somebody needs help and would reach out to help them? Or is it something that's not really talked about? Do you think that dieting is a major problem? Like, are people doing it in an unhealthy way? Or do you think it's being approached in a manner that's like actually good for your health and being balanced?
So let us know what you think in the comment section below. We're also going to talk a little bit more about our experiences with eating disorders here in Korea in our blog post. So make sure you click on the link here and we can have more of a discussion there as well.